Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. This is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. First of all, please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, I am back with yet another coronavirus / COVID-19 video, and this one actually lands in my wheelhouse, specifically the areas of pharmacology and toxicology. And today is September 10th, 2020, and so let's jump in. So again, I'm always on the lookout for information and content for this channel. Some of it I find on my smartphone, and some of it is shared with me. There is literally so much information regarding this specific topic that it's hard to keep up, and this particular piece was shared with me by one of my biggest supporters, BGS Ibmore. I'm very thankful for your support, and I want to thank you for sharing this piece. And I promise that the next offering on this channel is going to be something unrelated to the coronavirus / COVID-19 crisis / pandemic. But in any case, BGS shared an article with me that I thought was worth capturing on video. And it's an article from CGTN. I'm not familiar with this publication or website, but it's dated September 3rd, 2020. So this is fairly recent, and I just wanted to capture this before, it became old news. So this is going to be, as I was thinking about recording this, I think this will be a bit of a 2-for-1. So I'm going to read the article, but this is also a teachable opportunity about some pharmacology and physiology and drug targets, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit after I read the article about the science of this whole thing. So the article is entitled "Steroids Confirmed to Help Severely Ill Coronavirus Patients." So there's been talk about this for at least a month now, and I first heard about this when I was looking at CNN one night, and Dr. Sanjay Gupta came on and talked about dexamethasone, which is a steroid, as a potential treatment for individuals who have been infected with the coronavirus and who were experiencing respiratory distress. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the article now. New studies confirm that multiple types of steroids improve survival for severely ill COVID-19 patients, cementing the cheap drugs as a standard of care. An analysis of pooled results from 7 studies led by the World Health Organization and published Wednesday by the Journal of the American Medical Association found that steroids reduced the risk of death in the first month by about 1/3 compared to placebo treatment or usual care alone in these seriously ill patients who needed extra oxygen. This result opens up more choices of steroids, said Dr. Martin Landry of the University of Oxford, who led one of the studies. The more options there are in terms of availability, the better. Dr. Anthony Gordon of Imperial College London called the result a huge step forward, but added, as impressive as these results are, it's not a cure. Steroid drugs are inexpensive, widely available, and have been used for decades. They reduce inflammation, which sometimes develops in coronavirus patients as the immune system overreacts to fight the infection. This overreaction damages the lungs and can prove fatal. These drugs are not the same type of steroids that are used or misused for athletic performance. So those are anabolic steroids. In June, a large study led by the University of Oxford found that a steroid called dexamethasone cut deaths by up to 35% in hospitalized COVID-19 patients who needed treatment with breathing machines, and by 20% in those only needing extra oxygen. It did not help less sick patients and might even have even been harmful at that stage of illness. That last sentence read kind of awkward. The results changed care immediately and prompted many other studies that were testing steroids to stop so more people could be given the drug. The new analysis looked at results from 6 of those studies that were stopped early, plus severe patients in the Oxford study to see if all patients of steroids were similarly effective, and concluded they are. There were 222 deaths among the 678 patients given a steroid, and 425 deaths among the 1,025 patients given placebos or just usual care. I'm delighted, said Dr. Derek Angus, critical care chief at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, who helped lead one of the studies. It's incredibly reassuring that the other trials all were lining up in the same direction. It's the most solid news we've had yet on how to take care of patients with COVID-19. Mark Shannon, a 61-year-old retired bank teller from Pittsburgh who spent 11 days on a breathing machine, received the steroid hydrocortisone in the study and recovered. His doctor told him that was pretty stupendous to recover from so long on a ventilator, he said. I realize how close I am to losing my life, he said. The World Health Organization issued treatment advice Wednesday recommending steroids for patients with severe COVID-19 and suggested not using them for less sick patients. Treatment guidelines in the United States now recommend dexamethasone or others only when it's not available for hospitalized COVID-19 patients needing extra oxygen. But that could change with new information. So that's the end of the article. Just briefly, in terms of physiology, and physiology is the study of how the human body works, down to the hormone level and down to the molecular and cellular biological levels. That's what physiology is. And so, in physiology, we know that certain parts of the body and the homeostasis of the body and the development of the body, we know that aspects of that are regulated by endocrine signaling. And what endocrine signaling is when a hormone or a neurotransmitter is created in one organ or tissue. When it's created there, it migrates to another tissue in the body and causes an effect in that other tissue of the body. So the classic example of this is sexual development. When testosterone is generated in the testes, for example, we know that it travels to other parts of the body, and it causes, at the appropriate age in men or in boys, it causes the growth of hair, pubic hairs. It causes our voices to deepen. It causes the growth of muscles in a different way than in females. So I'll just stop that there. But on the molecular level, what those hormones do. So hormones are they're typically cholesterol derivatives, and what that means is when you look at a hormone's structure, such as testosterone or estrogen or one of those, it's a multi-ring structure, and that means that cholesterol, which is typically discussed in terms of heart disease and the hardening of arteries, that cholesterol actually has beneficial effects, and one of them is that it's a precursor to hormones, and that's what you look at when you see a hormone like dexamethasone here. And so what those hormones do, in terms of their chemical properties, they are lipophilic. And so what that means is what those hormones can do is when they get to the cell where they're going to exert their function, they typically pass through the cell membrane very easily, and they bind to a nuclear hormone receptor. And in this example here, there's a nuclear hormone receptor residing in the cytoplasm of the cell. And when the steroid binds that nuclear hormone receptor, it migrates into the nucleus and it dimerizes. So in the cytoplasm, it's a monomer, so that means there's one unit. And at some point, it dimerizes, so it joins with another receptor, and it binds to the DNA in the hormone response element. And so I'm not going to get into all of the molecular biology here, but what you need to know is that when the hormone binds to the receptor migrates into the nucleus and it binds to the DNA, and that causes the gene to give rise to messenger RNA, and then that messenger RNA goes into the cytoplasm to generate a protein or proteins of choice, which lead to a biological activity. And that usually occurs, or that for the most part occurs, through transcription and translation. So the genetic code for our cells and for our bodies are found in the DNA on the genes. And as I said in a previous video, the proteins are the workhorses for our cells and for our bodies. So everything that happens pretty much occurs on the protein level. So I'm going to close out with something I said over email to BGS, and that's that, as with most drugs and medications, there are side effects and there are bad things that can happen. And so in terms of hormones and hormone like drugs, what we know is that sometimes they can cause depression of the immune system. And that's what doctors and the health community and the medical community, that's what they're looking for here, because the coronavirus causes inflammation in the lungs. So one way to treat the patients when they're experiencing respiratory distress is to depress that the inflammation and immune function. And so a quick example of why that's bad, and that in this instance it's good, but a quick example of why that's bad is Melvin Franklin from The Temptations. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but and this was in the movie Temptations Forever. So, as they got further up in age, Melvin experienced arthritis in his joints. And so there's actually a scene in the movie where he's talking to his doctor, and his doctor says, you know, if you keep taking these hydrocortisone shots, the arthritis will be the least of your worries. And if you Google Melvin Franklin, it talks about how he developed, I believe it's called necrotizing. I'll just look it up right here. Yeah, so Melvin developed necrotizing fasciitis. And there's a link there. It's not pretty to look at, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that while certain drugs have therapeutic effects, if they're taken in too large of a quantity or for too long a time, they can do other hazardous things and harmful things to patients. And that's what dexamethasone is. It's a steroid, and that's a strategy for treating COVID-19. So as I was shooting this video, I was thinking that I've covered a myriad of drugs for the treatment of COVID-19. So I've covered chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine and remdesivir and aviptadil. And so now we can add dexamethasone to that group. And steroids are a pretty, as the article said, steroids are a pretty old class of drugs. I've used some myself. I have sensitive skin on my hands, and so I've been given steroid creams for my hands over the years. And what the steroid cream does, at least topically, is it causes the inflamed skin, it causes cell division, and it causes the inflamed skin to heal and to slough off. And that's topically. And I think in the article, I did some research on the dexamethasone. And in this instance, for the treatment of COVID-19, I think it's either given orally, it can be given orally, and it can be given intravenously. I don't think it's being given by inhalation. But I'm going to stop this here. This has gone longer than I wanted it to. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comment section below. Thank you again, BGS, for sharing this article. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.